So I was perusing around on Twitter yesterday and saw Rhonda Ezell celebrating an anniversary of a historic case that she brought against gun legislation and gun laws in her neck of the woods up in Chicago. And it's a case that I think a lot of people need to be more familiar with because, well, quite frankly, we hear about the case quite a bit in the litigation against Illinois' gun and magazine ban. Well, joining us right now to talk about this is Rhonda Ezell. Rhonda, thanks for taking time with us this morning. Talk about the genesis of the case and ultimately what you're celebrating here.
Hi, Greg. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Well, it was our 12th year anniversary of Ezell versus City of Chicago. It was a case that we brought against the City of Chicago for the right to build gun ranges, and we came out victorious not once but twice. And the case is more than just about gun ranges. The case has a lot of things in there. We knocked down restrictions of age of restriction of a minor to go into a range, where they wanted to have the ranges located. They wanted to keep them in manufacturing districts, the time that you can open and close the range, and things of that nature. And so yesterday, I found myself celebrating that historical landmark victory once again, because as you know, like you stated, the case is a historical case. It's case law. It's set a precedent for how the Second Amendment is interpreted in the court of law. And at some point in time in the Illinois unconstitutional ban on AR-15s and magazines, we had the Attorney General make a statement in one of his briefs that the Ezell case was new litigation. And so with that, last week, I addressed him about that at the courthouse down at the federal building. Once the case was over with, and I walked up to Kwame Raoul, I introduced myself, and I told him I had a bone to pick with him. And I made it clear about the Ezell case, who I am, and what the case stood for. And, he kind of was shocked, and he just looked, and then I just gave him a business card and told him to have a good day.
So obviously the case has long-term impacts on how these various judges are evaluating restrictions on individuals' ability to not just own firearms, but where they can take those firearms. Talk about, I guess, the strain it puts on residents in your neck of the woods in Chicago with the just leveling on of all of these regulations. Do people feel like they are able to protect themselves in a city with a crime rate that's higher than it's been in the past 4 years?
Greg, things have changed a bit since we did put in the work to restore gun rights in the city of Chicago as well as the state of Illinois. Nevertheless, every time the politicians go and they looking for more gun control that does nothing to stop the violence, it only affects law-abiding citizens. The criminals are not going to follow the law. They don't care. And they're not going to be held responsible for their actions. These are the things that lead to the violent crime that we see on a daily basis. This is nothing new in Chicago. It didn't start here. It's not going to end here. But it has been a long-lasting thing ever since the Al Capone days. But what we're seeing is criminals committing crime, getting away with it, getting a slap on the wrist, and all the politicians, what they're doing is giving them a slap on the wrist, and then they're utilizing the crime to their advantage so that they can go back and call for more racist gun control that does nothing to stop the violence. So you find that law-abiding citizens are in the ones that are being harmed the most because the bad guy doesn't care. But we're going to take down all of those unconstitutional laws that the governor signed in the dead of the night, and he's running around taunting that he banned this and he banned that. And I think he made a statement, I don't know if it was yesterday when I saw it, that, and I quote, we ban switches. Well, the gangbangers use switches every day. So here we are. Once they start, if they want to be real about the violence and stop lying to the general public, they will start to hold these criminals responsible for their actions. But unfortunately, that's not going to happen because we see some of the bad guys are hanging around with some of these politicians. They're in their office. They're having meetings with them. They're at their events and so on and so forth. If you know, you know.
Rhonda Ezell with us. She is the plaintiff in a landmark decision celebrating an anniversary, and the decision in the Ezell case is something that a lot of courts obviously are talking about and having to discuss as part of litigation against Illinois' gun and magazine ban. Rhonda, talk a bit, if you can, about the current state of gun control conversations. The governor, he said he wants a national ban to reflect Illinois' ban. You've got the president even saying that much. Is that going to solve the epidemic of violent crime?
Absolutely not, Greg, because when you process the statement itself, talking about banning all firearms, that leaves the bad guy in the government with firearms. Our government can't be trusted. We just had found cocaine in the White House. We have the son of the president who lied on the 4473 form. The FBI and whoever else swept it under the rug. As far as Governor Pritzker making a statement himself, he's touting a run for president. Governor Pritzker knows just as well as anyone else that what he signed into law is going to be struck down in court. We may not get it through the panel of three that we dealt with on Thursday because, one, they definitely understand Braun. They understand Heller, McDonald, as well as Ezell. The real question is, will they apply it accordingly like they should? I don't think they will. We heard what Easterbrook and Wood and the other judges were talking about. They were talking about things that weren't even being discussed in the case. Nevertheless, the case will find its way to the United States Supreme Court, and then the Braun decision, Heller, McDonald, Ezell, will be applied as it should. And so that right there will take care of everything that Governor Pritzker is running around talking about he did. It's easy to say, oh, I did this in the dead of the night when no one was there to contest the situation, knowing that it's all unconstitutional and it's going to be eventually struck down. This is just a bid for, I want to be president. They know Joe Biden is not coherent. They have him there. He's on a string. It's elderly abuse. The National Democratic National Convention will be here in Chicago, so that should tell people something. They're kind of getting this thing played out to where they can have this billionaire that flies his jet to the World Economic Forum and then tell you something about climate change. I mean, here we are. You have to put the pieces to the puzzle together to understand what they're doing.
Rhonda, a lot of conversation about how to curb violent crime, and the governor says, hey, the ban on certain semi-automatic weapons and magazines is helping with that, keeping the streets safe. Obviously, a lot of pushback against that idea from the gun rights community. But when it comes to the ideas that are out there to help combat violent crime, what do you think outside of the conversation of gun control? What do you think can happen to address violent crime?
The only thing that I think is viable is holding criminals responsible for their actions. There's no way that you can tell me or tell anyone in this country that violent crime is an epidemic and then you don't want to hold the individuals responsible for their actions, meaning that you don't want to incarcerate anyone. If you don't want to go to jail, don't commit crime. Yes, there are plenty of availability for community activities for these kids. They have an opportunity to go to school and stay in school from the beginning. These people aren't special. They make the decisions to be gang members and drug dealers and killers and whatever else they want to call themselves. Again, it's all political. It's all politicized. These things have been happening for decades and decades, for eons. And no one has stopped the violence because it helps their little political goal. So if we're talking about stopping violence, then we have to hold people accountable. There's no way that you can sit here and see the numbers that we saw on Memorial Day weekend, the 4th of July weekend, and every single day for that matter, or every weekend in the city of Chicago and around the country, and say that, well, we don't think incarceration is the answer, but yet you run to gun control that does nothing to stop the violence, and it only affects law-abiding Americans. And we're not the ones that's out here committing the crime. These people are mentally ill. They need some help. They're not getting it, but the government is pushing some radical notion that these people can go out here, commit these violent crimes, and if it's good enough for them, then they never let a crisis go unused. So they're at to blame just as well as the criminals because they're allowing these things to happen.
Rhonda Ezell, what message do you have for those in the gun rights space as to how they should move forward here and the types of things that you think that they need to do to step up?
Everybody needs to get involved. Stop sitting back, twiddling your fingers, or worried about what someone else is doing. Get involved and see what's going on. Start to evaluate the situation on your own. Most importantly, get armed to stay armed. Get yourself in a firearm safety course. Get your concealed carry license. Be aware of what's going on. Get you some training, because one thing is for certain, that the violence isn't going to stop. And if we take a look at what's going on around the world, with what happened in France and what's going on in Ukraine and the war with Russia, no one should ever give up their firearms. This government has sold this country out. And at the same time, the only thing that they can do to give this country away is to disarm America. And it's unfortunate that we're not giving up our firearms. We're not going to be another country where a dictator takes over and disarm America and then kill the people. We're not standing for that. So I'll tell everyone to make sure that they get armed, because they're their own first responders. They are responsible for their own safety.
Rhonda Ezell, if people want to follow you, say on social media, where I saw your tweet yesterday celebrating the anniversary of your case, Ezell versus Chicago, where can they get more information?
Well, they can reach me at ms_EZELL, or they can follow me at Rhonda Ezell /Facebook.
And obviously, one of your taglines is Real Talk. So thanks for taking that time and talking with us here on WMAY. We'll definitely chat again soon, all right?
Absolutely, Greg. Thank you for having me.
It is Springfield's Morning News on 92.7 WMAY, Springfield's News and Talk. And we got plenty more to come up. Stay tuned. It's here on WMAY. Follow me anywhere, bishoponair@gmail.com is the email address. You can see it on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Just search Bishop on